Hello and welcome to the Fancy News Show from the Bottled Imp. My name is Ken Boyter and this is your week of fantasy goodness. On this week's show, Brighton is all about the art. I don't even know this song. Anyway, Hull, not Hell, is to host FantastiCon again. And what would you do if you had some money stolen? But first, we have some sad news. Studio Ghibli artist Michiyo Yasuda has passed away aged 77. Widely respected animator and colour artist, her career spanned 5 decades and included a long stint at the studio that brought you Castle in the Sky, and that was their first feature film, and she worked on that in 1986, right through to the last feature, which was in 2008, The Wind Rises. She was born in Tokyo in 1939 and her career began before her 20th birthday, so she got in there really early, and she started out at the ink and paint department at Toyogo Doga Animation Studios, and she basically worked on TV series and commercials, and then she moved into feature films at a later date. Her best loved work probably is when she joined the Studio Ghibli and the colour department there, working on some of its most iconic works, which was Spirited Away, to Princess Monaco, to My Neighbour Totoro, and Howl's Moving Castle. Now, I've only recently started to explore all of those studio films, so I've been really blown away by the artwork on those films. So it seems such a sad loss. Yeah, so our thoughts are obviously with the family and friends of her. Moving on, an art exhibition by artist Ian Miller is currently showing in Brighton, England. Ian Miller is one of the 1970s and 80s artists whose imagination shaped horror, fantasy and science fiction art, certainly in the UK. Miller's early work includes covers for H.P. Lovecraft novels and the artwork for Ralph Bakski's animated film Wizards, which we have done a review of that, so you can check that out. Miller also produced artwork for the widely popular fighting fantasy game books and numerous illustration for Games Workshop and Citadel Miniatures. Now, I loved playing those fantasy fighting books. They were amazing, and what drew me in as well was the artwork. I always loved the artwork, this really nice fine pen and ink artwork, and that kind of inspired me to try my hand at doing some of that myself. Yeah, so you can see that. It's highly recommend this exhibition if you can get to see it. You can see it at the Corridor Gallery in Brighton from the 5th to the 31st of October. Obviously, some of that's in the past, isn't it? So it finishes on the 31st of October, really, and that's from 11 AM to 6 PM. And you can visit their website to find out more details if you go to www.corridorgallery.co.uk. And of course, like always, we'll put the links in the descriptions. ArmadaCon 28 is a sci-fi and fantasy multimedia convention that's been running in Plymouth in England since 1988. It's quite a few years ago. And apparently this is a slightly different convention, as the organisers claim that fans find one medium or one subject within the medium a bit restrictive. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they claim. So they state on their website that most fans like one type of medium irrespective of the subject matter. So basically, it's a multimedia experience. There is certainly a lot going on, such as there's going to be an auction, guest panels, a masquerade, a post-conventional meal, which sounds very civilised, quizzes and games. There's also themed radio plays, so I think they act out a radio play in front of a live audience, which is pretty cool. Tabletop gaming and RPGs. There's also turkey readings. Now, I had to look into find out what that meant by that. That basically means that there's going to be some reading aloud of some of the worst sci-fi and fantasy ever written, and attendees then bid for the reader to stop, while others bid for the torture to continue. So all the money that's raised will then go to their charity. So that's pretty cool. And the convention takes place on the 4th to the 6th of November at the Futures Inn in Plymouth in England. And you can obviously find out more and book your tickets at their website, which is ArmadaCon.org. The city of Hull in England is hosting this year's FantastiCon once again. This convention celebrates all things sci-fi and fantasy, and it certainly shows as they've got a whole raft of things going on. You can, for example, you can meet J.R.R. Tolkien's great-grandson, Royd Tolkien. You can join in a nightly Nerf war on the Saturday and Sunday. You can join the Assassin's game all weekend with just your mobile phone. You can have a go at the latest virtual reality with Oculus Rift and HTC Vive. And what else? You can also drive a Dalek. So there you go, that would be pretty cool. And you can test a Google Cardboard VR headset with your own phone. Don't know if I mentioned that one already. There's a Q&A live session and also workshops on both days, including authors, musicians, cosplays, actors, and also the man behind the Star Trek Fact Files is going to be there. There's also book readings from sci-fi and fantasy authors, and obviously you can meet some celebrities, authors and guests. There's even live music, but my favourite part of this convention says on their website there's unlimited soft drinks and biscuits for all. Yes, biscuits. That's the main attraction for me. So you can grab your free biscuits on the 19th and 20th of November at Guildhall in Hull in England. And you can find out more, obviously, from their website, which is fantasticon.co.uk. Robot Wars is set to return for a second series. Yes, the BBC Two's revival of the arena mechanical dust-ups Robot Wars is coming back for a second run of 6 episodes. And once again, the presenting team is Dara O'Brien and Angela Scanlon. I think that's how you pronounce her name. The original show ran from 1998 to 2004, and basically the series was brought back this year, and it was a big success for BBC Two, so that's cool. They updated the format a little bit. It's basically just arena fighting now. There's no assault course or anything like that. And yes, it's coming back. Executive producer Andrew Robertson said, "We're delighted that the first series proved such a success that we can't wait to see more amazing teams with the next generation of incredible robots in the arena." You can apply to join this series. Applications are already open, so if you think you have a robot that can smash your way to the final and win the new series, then email robotwars@merton.tv. Kickstarter news. Now we do start Kickstarter in a rather unusual and sad note. Games publisher LudiCreations had one day's takings of the money that they'd sold their games, and they obviously took some money. They had that stolen at the German Essen Games Convention last Saturday. So obviously that's not a very nice thing to happen. Apparently a few other stalls also had some money stolen as well. Now, for anyone to have that stolen is horrible, but for a small games publisher to have that stolen, that can be quite devastating. But rather than sit back and we'll go into a hump and take it, they actually decided to turn a negative into a positive, and they've created, and they did this on a Saturday that the money was realised it was stolen. They did that. They created a micro game, and they then put it onto Kickstarter to try and recoup some of that money that was stolen. The game is called Steal This Game. Yes, so they've turned a negative into a positive. It's designed by David Turksey, and basically one player takes on the role of the board game publisher at a big convention, and the other player is a thief, and they're trying to rob the publisher's money by rolling dice, lying, guessing, and shuffling cards. Does look like a lot of fun. As I say, it's a little micro game, and as I say, it is good to see something positive come out of this, and it's nice to see that the gaming community has rallied around to support them. Now we do know this publisher personally because we have reviewed some of their games, and we've kindly met the owner of the publishing house. So obviously we hope that they do recoup all of the money and that they can be stronger for it. Their campaign finishes on the 31st of October. Moonstone is a fantasy skirmish game for 2 to 6 players from Goblin King Games. In this game, you lead a troupe of fairy tale inspired characters across farmsteads, town centres and the darkest of forests in search of precious, yes you've guessed it, moonstones. When your troupe encounters a town or a field belonging to a player, it is a mad race to grab as many of the stones as quickly as possible, while also denying the opponents their chance to grab moonstones. The mechanics are a number of shared custom card decks, such as combination of bluffing and zero-sum techniques. And the beta rules are free to download from their campaign page, along with paper standees, stat cards and custom card decks. So you can test the game, find out what it's like before you actually decide to pledge. The miniatures do look fantastic. They look really cool, very highly detailed. And they've got this kind of humorous style. So there's a strong element of wit that runs through this game. And it finishes on the 9th of November. Steampunk Universe is a steampunk anthology edited by Sarah Hans. And this is a diverse collection of stories featuring neurotypical and disabled characters. And this is their second anthology. Their first, which was an award-winning anthology, Steampunk World, was published 2.5 years ago. And their aim was to create a collection with even more diversity within its pages. They want fully developed characters in steampunk who are disabled or neurotypical. We want more than token characters and cliche plots, is what they state. And as well as Sarah Hand's editing, there's James Nigg is the cover artist with 16 authors contributing to the collection. And there are various pledge levels, as you can expect, including a digital and print version of the book. Plus there's a chance to also pledge for the first collection too. It does finish on the 7th of November. And Rivia is a graphic novel adaptation of The Death of Dulgarth, which is a novel by Michael J. Sullivan. The Death of Dulgarth is the 9th adventure of Royce and Hadrian, a former assassin and ex-mercenary who are hired by nobles for various nefarious tasks. And this episode was written as a standalone, so if you've not read any of the others, don't worry, this is a standalone one. So you don't have to have any prior knowledge of what's happened previously. And there's 2 volumes, so this is part 1, there's going to be a second part. And it's being published by the Dabell brothers, and it's illustrated by artists Max Reynaud and Michael Bartolio, and it's adapted by writer Derek Ruzzi, with lettering and production design Dave Lanthier. I think that's how you pronounce his name. So there are various videos on their campaign page explaining who the team are, and so you can see their level of excellence and experience. And I think that's a good thing. Obviously, when people start to have a pedigree and when they're getting a bit more experience about what they're doing, you kind of know there's going to be a certain amount of quality. And they have loads of colour panels that you can see, and the artwork does look amazing. They've got lots of pledge levels and stretch goals going on as well. It's so close to being funded, and it finishes on the 5th of November. But that's all we have time for, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow imps. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, we do have a Friday fantasy show where we explore the realms of fantasy. But until next time, remember, keep it unreal, especially if you're an imp.